Hey, welcome back to Electrically Constructed. I'm Master Electrician Seth Eckel, and this is our third video of our pole box calculation series. In our last video, we covered angle poles, and in this video, we're going to be going over U-poles and poles out the back of the box. So, as always, I'm using my 2026 NEC Code Book. If you don't have one, there's a link below. You can purchase one there. Otherwise, if you have it, let's get it out and let's get going. All right, before we get into the code book, I just want to pull out a quick example and kind of do a quick refresher of what we've gone over already and talk about what we're going to talk about today. So, I got my junction box here, and in the first video, we talked about straight poles. So that's largest raceway on a wall multiplied by 8, and that's it. That's the rule for that one. We also talked about angle poles in video 2. That's doing a 90-degree angle pole anywhere inside the box, and that code rule is the largest raceway multiplied by 6 plus any additional raceway in the same row, and that's going to give us our box size that we need for angle poles. We also have that rule with entryways that you can't be with. You have to be six times away from the entry point. So if I'm coming from this pipe and going into this pipe on an angle pole, I still got to make sure that my entry points are 6 times the trade size away from each other. So here I got a 1-inch raceway. So 1 times 6, 6. Got to make sure I have 6 inches of space between these 2 entry points. All right. So the U-pole that we're doing today has the same rule as the angle pole, and we're also going to discuss back of the box poles today as well, and that actually has a table for it. So we're going to get into that a little bit. And one thing, this is the U-pole right here, coming out of the top of the box, looping around and going out the top of the box. So yeah, just wanted to show that to you guys real quick before we start today's lesson. But without going on, let's get over to the computer and get this going. Okay, so before we get into our code calculations for today, I want to go back and look at the challenge question I had at the end of my last video. I asked you guys to comment with your answers in the comment section, so you can hold yourself accountable and go back and take a look, see if you got your answer correct. So let's go through it right now and see what you guys got. All right, so first thing what I like to do is find the easiest calculations first. So I'm going to look for the straight pole. So I'm going to clean out my angle poles real quick just so we can focus on the straight pole here. So the straight pole is a 2-inch raceway. We know that 2-inch raceway is going to be, for the straight pole, is going to be a multiplier of 8. So 2 times 8 gives me 16 inches. All right, I'm going to get my angle poles back in here now. Now it looks like there's a whole lot of mess going on and a lot to figure out, a lot of calculations going on. I like to make it easy on myself, and I start looking at all the raceways on one side of a box and start comparing it real quick. So I look here, I got a 3-inch and 2-inch raceway in one row. I got 3 1.5-inch raceways in the back row there. I got a 2-inch and a 2-inch raceway in this row right here, and 1.5 inches and 1.5 inches in this raceway right here. So I already know that this side of the box, the calculation is going to be bigger than this side of the box. So I don't need to calculate this because this is going to be smaller than this. All right, now I'm going to compare these two right here. So I got the 3 and the 2. So that's the same thing as this right here. So I just have to calculate this once and I'll know what this is. And I got 5 1.5-inch raceways in the back row here, which is larger than this right here. So instead of calculating this, I'm just going to calculate this top. So I'm going to take my 3 times 6 plus 2, because 3 is my largest raceway, plus the sum of the rest of the raceways in the same row. So let's get that. So 3 times 6 equals 18. 18 plus 2 equals 20. So that gives me my raceway right there. All right, and now I'm going to add up my back of the box. So I got 1.5. 1.5 times 6 equals 9. Then I just took the rest of the raceways. 1.5 times 4 equals 6 plus 9 equals 15 inches. So the 3-inch and the 2-inch row is larger than that back row. So that's going to be the same thing on this side. And that means this 20 inches is also bigger than this 16-inch straight pole. So what that gives us is a 20-inch by 20-inch J box. So hopefully that's what you guys got. That's how that worked out. Hopefully that made sense for you too. All right, that's it. Let's move forward. Let's go to our code book and let's open up Article 314.28. And we are looking at the code rule 314.28A2. We are going to look at the angle poles today. And the rules same as, I'm sorry, not the angle pole, the U-pole. It's the same as the angle pole. So we don't have to really go over it too much. We already know the rule. It's 6 times the largest raceway plus the sum of the other raceways in the same row. So let's go and look at some examples of that right away. All right, here's an example. I got a 4-inch raceway. I'm running wire through it, looping over through another 4-inch raceway. So we know what the code rule is. The code rule is 4 times 6 equals 24. But it doesn't stop there because we got that other 4-inch raceway in the same row. So 4 times 6 plus 4 equals 28. So that's going to give us our height of the box right here, 28 inches. But now we also have to figure out how wide the box is. The box can be wider than 28 inches because we have that rule of the entryway. So we have to have our entryway be 4 times 6. Remember, the distance between raceway entries enclosing the same conductor shall not be less than 6 times the trade size of the largest raceway. So 4 times 6 is 24. And that's it. We need to have 24 inches between raceways. But then this is a 4-inch raceway, and this is a 4-inch raceway. So you're going to have at least another 8 inches, plus you're going to need a little space to knock out your holes in your box so that you can get your lock nut on. So you're probably looking at something like at least a 34-inch wide J box, but you're probably going to go to something like a 36. Okay, so that's how this U-pole rule works. Very similar to the angle pole. All right, exactly the same rules. So hopefully that makes sense. The only thing different is how we kind of size the same side when it comes to the U-pole, because you got to have that distance between the raceways on the same side of the box. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, this one is going to be out the back of the box. So let's go back to our code book. Okay, let's get to the right page here. So this is the exception. So it says where a raceway or cable entry is in the same wall of a box or conduit body opposite a cover, the distance from that wall to the cover shall be permitted to comply with the distance required for 1 wire per terminal in table 312.9a. All right, so let's go to that table. Table 312.9a. We can highlight this table. Okay. And this table is telling us minimum wire bending space at terminals and minimum width of wiring gutters. All right. So the code rule told us 1 wire per terminal is the column that we're using. Okay. We'll go back to my example here. Okay. And I put down, I copied the table over here, but I also copied the code rule, and I'm using number 2 gauge wires. That's what I have coming out my raceway and going into the back of the box raceways. All right, so the rule, let's read it one more time. Where a raceway or cable entry is in the wall of a box or conduit body opposite a cover, the distance from that wall to the cover shall be permitted to comply with the distance required for one wire per terminal in table 312-9A. So let's see, I'm using number 2 wire and one terminal, or one wire per terminal, number 2. So you got a couple columns here to choose from. This is compact, stranded, aluminum. All right, we're using the all other conductor column. And so when you see this, it doesn't have jackets on it, so it doesn't matter what if it's THHN or XHHW or any other type. It just matters the size. So number 2 gauge wire, one wire per terminal. It's a 2.5 inch box, so I just need a 2.5 inch space from the entry point of the back of the box to the cover. It's really not that much. I'm probably going to have a wider box than that regardless. Even when you get down to like the 500s, if you had those in the box and going out the back, it's still 6 inches. It's not that. You're probably going to have a pretty big box if you're running these wires in there. All right, so that's how that works. The answer for this would be you'd need at least a 2.5 inch wide box if you have number 2 wires going out the back. But you still have to apply with the other rules. Entryway to entryway still needs to be multiplied by 6. So I probably wouldn't be able to put this wire from this conduit into this conduit here. So big point here, you need to plan out your raceways. Really make sure you're doing that, because you're landing a J box and running your raceways and you're not thinking about it. You run this raceway and you need to run wire into this raceway. Well, now you just kind of made a big mistake, because you might get called on it because you didn't read the rules in the code book closely, or follow your plan close enough, or even have a plan at all, and now your raceways are too close to each other. So yeah, big point of emphasis right here. Plan out your raceways ahead of time. But let's keep going with the code rule. So we know right now how wide our box needs to be, and we know that our raceways need to be spaced apart correctly. We still need to figure out the width of the box right here. So that's going to be the same rule as our angle pull and our U-pull. It's going to be 6 times your largest raceway plus the sum of the rest of the raceways in the same row. So we have 2.5 inches on this row. We have 3 on this row. So we know that we don't have to calculate this one, because this one right here is going to be bigger than this one right here. So let's take a look. We have 1.5 times 6. It's going to be 9 plus 1.5 plus 1.5. It's going to give us 12 inches. So we need a 12 inch by 12 inch junction box for these angle pulls out the back of the box. And it needs to be at least 2.5 inches wide. And you need to have at least 9 inches of space if you have the same conductor leaving and entering a different raceway. All right, that's it. That's the code rule for U-pulls, angle pulls, and pulls out the back of the box. Our next video, we are going to be talking about straight pulls, and we're going to get into some troughs, and that's going to be it for our pull box series. Then we're going to get into our raceway calculation series. So I'm pretty excited about that. There's a lot going on in raceway calculations. I look forward to that. Hopefully you're looking forward to that. And never stop learning. Stay sharp, and God bless. See you in the next video.